Hello all, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back, and we are continuing with our weekly portion review. This week we are in the portion of Miketz. Miketz is the awakening of Pharaoh from his dream, right? We finished last portion with one of the prisoners that was with Joseph reminding Pharaoh about this dream interpreter. And Joseph, this really marks the turning point in Joseph's story, right? He rises suddenly from prison to, heights of power. He's second only to Pharaoh, and his dreams are seemingly fulfilled. Not in the most expected way, though, right? There is a famine in the region. Jacob sends his sons down to Egypt, not knowing that he's basically sending his sons down to, to meet face to face with the brother that they once sold. Now, this portion is not only about Joseph's rise; it's about confrontation and memory, and old wounds are really going to resurface. These are things that they tried to bury in the past are going to suddenly become exposed. And really, at the center of all this tension, I would say there's a figure who really says basically nothing. And we have to ask, what does the tribe of Benjamin, right, Joseph's youngest brother, represent in Jewish history? So if we follow Benjamin through the Tanakh, there's one trait that really stands out again and again, and this is the trait of silence. And this silence even begins before Benjamin is even born. Rachel, if we remember his mother, she remains silent when her sister Leah receives the identifying signs to marry Jacob. That quiet strength becomes Benjamin's inheritance. And we see it again in King Saul, right? The first king of Israel, who is described as hiding among the vessels, right? He didn't want the attention. And then again, we see it with Queen Esther, Saul's descendant, where it's mentioned in the book of Esther that Esther did not reveal her people or her birthplace, right? She knew how to be silent about this as well. And we see it most powerfully, I would say, in the story of Joseph, where Benjamin is really at the center of this entire drama, yet he never says anything. Everyone is talking about Benjamin. Everyone is fighting over Benjamin, but Benjamin himself, he remains silent. And really, this is the idea that throughout Jewish history, Benjamin is the ones whose voice is actually we're awaiting. But it's not really heard. And the silence is not weakness, it's actually potential. And in that sense, Benjamin represents the future Jew. And he's the only brother that wasn't born in exile, right? He's born in the land of Israel itself. He's the first, in that sense, he's the first native to the land. And he represents not what the Jewish people were, but what they were meant eventually to become. And this is why every brother really wants Benjamin with him. Each one of these brothers believes that if Benjamin stands with them, history then will follow as well. And this idea appears clearly also in prophecy, right? When, if you guys remember, when Achiah, the Shilonite, he tears Jeroboam's garment into 12 pieces. He assigns 10 to Jeroboam and 1 to the house of David, but the final piece is never actually explicitly mentioned. And this missing piece is Benjamin, right? Benjamin ultimately has to choose for himself. And wherever Benjamin stands, that is where history will continue. And if Benjamin would have joined the northern kingdoms, then it could have been that the Davidic line would have vanished. Instead, Benjamin ultimately aligns with Judah. And then the 10 tribes, as we know, fade from history, and Judah remains. And this is why Judah says to Joseph, when I come to my father and the boy is not with us, his soul ultimately is bound up with his soul. Right? Wherever Benjamin's soul is found, that is also where the soul of Jacob is as well. And Benjamin might not lead, but nothing could actually move forward without him. And he is this quiet force that really determines the direction of our history. And having said that, yet we realize that Benjamin is not the tribe of continuity. Right? Jacob's blessing is telling when he blesses the boys. Later on, he says, in the morning he devours prey, and in the evening he divides spoil. Meaning Benjamin appears at the beginning of the Jewish sovereignty, right, through Saul, and then again all the way at the end in what we hope is the Messianic horizon. But this long stretch in between is what we would call exile. And during exile, Israel needs other forms of leadership. We need the classic sustaining power of Judah, or the organizing strength that we've seen Joseph. But still, Benjamin remains the unifying point. And as we know, the divine presence rests on the territory of Benjamin. The temple stands there as well. The people of Israel ultimately ascend there 3 times a year. And when Benjamin is nearly destroyed during the horrible episode of the concubine in the Giva, in that area, it becomes a crisis of really the entire nation. And all of Israel unites, both to judge and ultimately also to heal as well. And in this sense, Benjamin is the place where everyone sees themselves. Now, in many ways, the state of Israel stands in the position of Israel. Israel is spoken about constantly, but often it's really misunderstood. It carries an enormous amount of symbolic weight, yet rarely fits neatly into everyone's expectations of what Israel should be. And like Benjamin, it was born in the land itself, not exile, right? And it represents the future form of Jewish existence, not just really its past. And that is why every ideological camp tries or is trying to ultimately claim it. And this is why its alignment matters so deeply to us. The question of our time is not only political, it's actually historical. Will Israel lean towards raw survival like Joseph did? Will we move towards this, our covenant responsibility like Judah? Or can we hold both of these things together? And Benjamin teaches us that the history is not really shaped by noise, but by where we ultimately stand. And unity doesn't come from us, whoever is going to be shouting louder. It comes from deciding to choose to align wisely, ultimately, and orient ourselves wisely. Where Benjamin stands, history will ultimately continue. I wish us a Shabbat Shalom, where we be able to find our grounding and stand firm. Take care.